Welcome to Chatter, where we discuss what matters. And today we are discussing a very sensitive matter. We are going to deal with Black women in health. And it's something we should have been discussing years ago. But thank God, through progression and evolution of people being able to talk about this, and we can talk freely about this. So I'm going to hand it off to Lydia.
All right. So yes, we're going to talk about Black women in mental health. Like, what the health? Like, what are we doing? How are we taking care of ourselves? And how is the system that we're living in helping to take care of us as well? Okay. So a tragedy happened January 30th. As you know, Chelsea Chris, she was a former Miss USA. In addition, she was an attorney. She committed suicide. Oh. But what gets me about this is everyone describes her as very happy, upbeat, uplifting, and things of that nature. So she's known as a high-functioning person with depression, so high-functioning depression. And also, despite, the fact that we're the minority in our U.S. population, Blacks make up half of all suicides. So each year, half of all total suicides for the year are people of color. Wow. Even though we make up a small 14.5% of the United States population. But then there was another survey that basically said a Black person suffering from mental health issues, they're willing to get help. But then further research shows it takes about 50 days to get into a mental health professional's office. Wow. And if you have Medicaid, it's almost double that time.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Right? So for you to see someone face to face, by the time you pick up the phone call and make the appointment.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So, with that being said, even if a person of color wants to seek some type of mental health, what's that process? What does it look like? How long does it take?
It's a mess.
It's a mess. So I started to kind of reflect. It's a mess. It's a mess. So think about it. As Black people, we deal with the same thing other people deal with, right? Mm-hmm. We have the same emotions and feelings when normal stuff happens. Yes. But add that other layer. The other layer is we're treated as second-class citizens in America. We are passed over. We have violence, trauma, historical trauma from our ancestors. Yeah. So put that on top of just being normal.
The everyday living.
Living precious.
And then,
Jesus.
And then throw a vagina on it.
And then be a Black woman. Throw a vagina on it. You're right. Throw a vagina on it. All right.
And that gives it a whole nother.
Yes. Yeah. So I started reflecting like, okay, so I have to kind of depend on my circle. You know what I'm saying? If I'm having a mental health crisis, like literally a mental health crisis in that moment, we talked, there's other episodes where we talked about strive and survive and stuff like that. Well, when it's a moment of surviving and I have to lean on a friend, how do we respond? So I want you to think about that for a moment. Think about a friend that you may have or a family member, a phone call, and how we respond when we notice someone's a little off, right? Mm-hmm. Or when we notice someone someone tells us, like, I don't know if I could wake up and do this again tomorrow. Like, I don't know. Mm-hmm. How are we responding to each other?
So I would like to think that that I'm there for a person if they call me, need me. I try to make sure that people know that, hey, I can call you if I need you in a time of need, emotionally or whatever the case may be. So I'm trying to what can I do? How can I help you? Kind of goes back to the giving thing. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times we think about material things in giving, but giving can also be your time. Giving can also be your emotional stability. Mm-hmm. Because if somebody's going through something right now and you have that stability to give to them. So I'm generally going to be like, hey, what we need to do, we need to go, just let's talk to me till we can get you to that person, whatever.
Okay, so I'm going to pick on somebody. So
I knew this was going to happen.
Recently.
We're your month's friend.
Recently. And we've been how long we been knowing each other? Like 2 plus, okay? Mm-hmm.
So, is it a vulnerability thing or a shame thing?
Mine was definitely shame. And let me tell you why. We talked about it in the episodes back about the expectations. I'm almost 50. And in my mind, I thought I would be somewhere else. I thought I would be probably further, if I could use that word, alone. And I wasn't. And I'm not. I'm getting there. So I had to accept it. And so it was vulnerability. Now, I know I can be vulnerable with them.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, it didn't become real. Things don't become real to me until I say it. Oh. So if I don't talk about it, then in my mind it doesn't exist.
Oh, wow.
So by me talking to them, and like if I could put them on the phone one time, that'd have been okay. But I would have to talk to her differently, so now I'm hearing it. And so it becomes real. So I wasn't ready to deal with the real. I can only deal with the real once I'm out of it, because I couldn't deal with it, because I was still ashamed and stuff like that. So I couldn't even say
So you know, one of my favorite quotes is, "A closed mouth don't get fed." So sometimes when we're ashamed and not talking to people, we may be missing the person who would get us out of it quicker.
Yeah.
You know, they may have a knowledge base that you don't know about.
Yeah.
Or know something that you don't know
Yeah.
about.
And y'all did help afterwards and stuff. Yeah, you did.
And it
I'm
seems like
not
a
saying
coping
we gonna throw a
mechanism.
party.
I feel like that's a coping mechanism too. When you say it like that, like if I say it, I'm actually, I don't know if you feel like it makes it real to you, or if you're giving it like meaning, like you're giving it legs and giving it life, you know, and giving it power. And so if I don't say it, I don't give it power, so it's not really happening, but then you're reaping the repercussions of whatever is
About
happening.
like when I was pregnant with Dylan, and I felt like if I ain't talk about it, I wasn't really pregnant. Yeah, that doesn't work.
That doesn't work. That doesn't work. And
He's still coming.
And I know for me, it's like shame. Like, you know, me and you were talking, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to call you with the same thing. I've been talking about this for 3 years, and it's like, we've already talked about, okay, you going to stay or leave? You staying or leaving?
What you gonna do?
What you gonna do? So, all right, well, how did your family view mental health? Was it discussed in your home? Did you have any family member that things were talked about openly and honestly? Like, Uncle Ray, why he act like that? You know, or is it like, well, that's just Uncle Ray, he got an attitude problem.
Well,
so how was it talked about?
My mother was a social worker.
Okay.
So we talked about all kind of stuff, you know,
okay.
openly. And y'all know how my family is. Everything is on the table. But we have a habit, like most people would come in and be like, why are they laughing about this? We turn it into laughter. Like something happened, you pick about it. And that's how we kind of ease it through, where somebody else, it may destroy them. So we did talk about it. I don't know if that was healthy or not. But we did not talk as openly as people talk about now. And I'm just trying to think. But there was still some, I think, because of society, even though I lived in a very open household, my mama was like a psychiatric social worker.
Yeah.
So we were used to mental health for sure. And my background is psychology. But there still was a stigma. And sometimes it's just the not being able to recognize it. Like I can think about when I had postpartum with Bryson. Nobody really recognized it. And it wasn't until it was over that it was like, oh, wait a minute.
That wasn't.
Like I had coworkers like, this ain't the teacher I know.
Exactly.
Why are you crying for no reason? But nobody thought, she just had a baby. It might be postpartum. Which may go into the black female struggle too. You're not thinking, oh, she's always strong. She always strong. Well, what's wrong with you? You know, they want to blame it on every other area of your life.
Except for the obvious.
Except for the obvious. Even to the point where I went to the doctor for the first checkup and was like, I don't quite, something ain't right. You know,
you told your doctor that?
What did your doctor say?
He said, well, let's give it 2 more weeks and see if your hormones balance out, and then we'll revisit it. Well, by the time I was so deep in, by the time I went back, I just didn't bring it up.
So wait a minute. Did he ask follow-up questions? Like, that's a shame.
So that goes into the other part, how
They're
we're
medical.
treated differently,
Systemically.
historically in this country, how we are treated when we say what's going on.
All
It's
the
like,
things.
not really, it's just your hormones, girl.
Yeah.
Let's come on,
Come on, get over it.
Yeah, that is.
Give it 2 weeks, you'll be all right.
Yeah.
That is so
Wow.
profound.
Yeah.
That to what you was opening with in mental health. And my mom was a nurse, and she would say the same thing. She'd say, you know, my patients would go home, and I know this is a sidebar. I apologize, but you know, she did transplants. She was on the transplant floor, and she said the people would send her patients home, who of course were patients of color, but like no medicine, like no pain medicine, and they going way out because Augusta, you know how Augusta is. They come in to Augusta, and hey, no. Much that they had a transplant just like the other patients did, so they need pain medicine just like the other patients. He should have recognized that, but just for the simple color of our skin, we don't get the same.
Yeah, the last baby, and y'all know I had C-sections each time. She didn't rush and bring me medicine. And I'm telling you, Like, I'm in pain.
Yeah, but they believe the rhetoric that was created, right?
Yeah.
The studies
Our threshold.
that our threshold is
high.
higher than other people. I mean, don't let me go into my
Yes.
childbirth stories and all that
Yeah.
because it was so traumatic. You know what I'm saying? And it was like we're treated like subhumans. When we go in.
Yes, we're not even human.
So could you imagine something you can't see? Like if I get a gunshot when I go to the hospital, okay,
can
eventually I might get seen. But if I'm talking about I see things or I'm feeling this way, I can't get out of bed, it's like, oh, you'll be okay. You know, go to sleep earlier. Don't look at your cell phone at night.
Go
and all these
exercise.
other things.
Go exercise.
Go exercise.
And God
Tell me
forbid
that one time.
slightly overweight. They blame everything on
On
overweight.
the weight.
Yes.
Smoking.
Or
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
That's so
You just need to lose weight, it'll get better. I recently had a doctor, like I'm having some stuff now. And it's, well, if you lose weight, it'll get better.
Yeah. I had a doctor tell me that once.
Yeah.
No.
So how did your family see mental health, or how was it discussed? in your house?
It wasn't. It wasn't discussed, and it was a lot of stuff going on in my house. And we just pressed through. What we do. You better get up. You better go to school, and you better make your A.
Yeah.
You know, it was a lot of stuff. It was just quiet. It was that whatever happens in the household stays in the household. But it wasn't until I was fortunate enough to get out of school, you know, get out of my parents' house, and you know, I had people that I could look at and say, yeah, no, this is not normal. It's not normal. And, you know, just to have wherewithal to be like, okay, so this is what I can do and stuff like that. So, yeah, no, it was not discussed at all. There was no such thing as mental health.
Wow.
Yeah. In my household, there was no discussion at all. There was no discussion about mental health. Just like Tasha said, you suck it up and you push through it.
Yeah.
Because you know what? I don't know if I know that my mom would not have intentionally inflicted that hold us hostage and not talk about things.
Yeah.
I think it was like, this world is tough. You got to get going. When the tough
Yeah.
gets going, when
Yeah.
the going gets tough, the tough
Yeah.
gets going.
Yeah.
So I don't think she intentionally, but she put in our head, you know what? Suck it up. This is life. You're going to have to deal with it this way, because at the end of the day, this still has to get done. This still has to, and we don't have time to take out from that. So, you know, there's a part of me that applauds that, because there's a part of Joanne that said, I got to get this done.
Yeah.
But there's a part of me that needs to process, understand what I'm going through, so I can deal with whatever I'm dealing with better.
Right.
I dealt with things. I was numb.
Yeah.
I was really numb in life. I didn't feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, my experience was just like that. If I cried or anything like that, it was, all right, what you crying for? Save those tears for later. And I remember getting to the point, well, when is later? Like, when is later? I'm late again. Is it late again? And so, but I've noticed now, both of my parents really talk about mental health more, you know, and I think my mother didn't realize, like, she suffered from post-traumatic stress from the military, being the only black female jet mechanic, all right, in the 70s in the U.S. Air Force, which was already, I love my, you know, servicemen, but it was a racist institution, you know, and so basically she didn't realize until she was like, maybe in her late 50s, that is why she reacts to certain things. She has like this fight or flight, and it's because of what she dealt with in the military, and then becoming a police officer with the same thing. Go to Channel 2, and
Your mom
you
was
know,
a cop?
yes, she didn't fully go all the way because she was too rambunctious. So she left that and went into education. But they would tell her, go to Channel 2 or Channel 3, and they would say derogatory things to her. You know, yes, because on the radio, over the radio. So that police institution of, you know, being in a police officer is another institution because it's black, white, and blue. All right, and she needed to learn to be blue, right? And she was out of line with speaking up at certain things that she saw, and they put her back in her place very quickly and let her know what they would do to her, and nobody would find out that they did it. So all of that, and then coming from an abusive background, so she suffers from post-traumatic stress and never realized, because again, she grew up in the same kind of household. You just get up and you get it done, and you know, all this kind of stuff. It's gonna be hard anyway for black people, so you just deal with it. And then later on, she's like, wait a minute, no, that's not, I shouldn't be reacting like that. And wow, that's not normal that people are sexually harassing you at your job and calling you names and stuff like that. So some things we've normalized, you know, and we function, and we should not be normalizing those things.
Yeah.
So what do you do, like, if you have moments when you are at your lowest? And as you can see, you can't just pick up the phone and call a therapist, right? So what advice, what do you do personally, or what kind of advice would you give someone that when they call, Wait, what?
You mean healthy things too?
Right.
Healthy.
Right,
Put that
because I'm
chlorine in.
I'm gonna need me a drink. I can't talk to nobody. I can't talk. Hey, let me go speak to Amsterdam. Let me go speak to Tito. What we talking about tonight? What we talking about tonight? I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, well, keep it real.
I have a tendency to keep. I have a pretty tight circle of friends.
Okay.
And so if it's really some need, I talk to my friends.
Yeah.
Recently though, I've started meditating.
Okay.
Over the pandemic, that whole thing, I learned how to meditate. Because at first, it would be like, oh, you're supposed to breathe and quiet your mind, and my mind would be everywhere. And you'd be like, this is stupid. What am I doing? But then I got to a place where I learned how to quiet my mind and that kind of stuff. And I'll stop, and I realized it just needs to be a part of my life.
Yeah.
Instead of me going to it when when I need it.
crisis.
Yes. So it's been working for me, and it's just a regulation of my breathing. That's how I look at it. It ain't that deep. Like people try to make it, because us being from a spiritual background, people try to make it real deep.
Yeah.
And it's not.
It's not that deep, you know.
Yeah.
I don't love Jesus no less, because I'm
that's a whole.
But that's a whole other conversation.
That is
That's another matter.
another layer
chat.
to it.
Yeah. So like that's mainly what I do. Substances don't help, but sometimes you do it. Like if it's a really I want to say something else that I do, but I do, because it calms you down.
I think you should say that.
Yeah, you should say that.
You're a married woman.
Okay, so sex.
I thought I was I knew what you were saying.
I didn't know that. Now, of course, that. I was thinking about something else. I was thinking about,
drinking.
No.
Smoking?
Another,
Yes.
Another
Nature.
Smoking's nature.
Nature.
Well, I mean,
I was thinking that's what you. Of course, sex. You're married.
yeah.
I didn't know
Everybody
I didn't
has
know
their
that
vice.
woman. Yeah,
Some
I didn't know
people
where
it's
you were going
alcohol.
with that. Yeah.
Some people it's sex. Some people
I
it's
don't know if it's legal
whatever.
in Georgia, so I.
You don't know if it was legal in Georgia?
Yeah.
Not sex.
I
Marijuana.
think sex is.
Marijuana.
Long as they ain't no Asian.
I thought that's what you were going to say.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Because substances don't help me.
Yeah.
I've learned that they don't help me.
Yeah.
I wake up feeling groggy and have a headache. I don't like that after feeling. You feel good in that moment.
Yeah.
But for me, that is not my vice.
Yeah.
You know, as long as I don't get pregnant again, I'm good.
Okay.
Oh, yes, Lord, took pregnancies at 45. No.
Jesus.
We're not doing that.
Be a whole fence.
Yes.
Pregnancy at 40 was too much.
Yes.
God.
So what do you have any advice or anything that you kind of go to, lean to?
Yes, I have learned to go to the Father. I seriously, before I pick up the phone, when I feel something coming on, I can feel it in my gut, I can feel it in my stomach. There's a certain feeling that I get that I know, okay, trauma is on the horizon.
Yeah.
I'm upset. I really, honestly have disciplined myself to pray first.
Okay.
And it's not a long prayer. Jesus, help me. I don't know what I'm doing. And my prayers are not, they will never be in the Bible.
You be talking to your
I'm
friends.
I'm like, God,
Yeah.
this is what I need. This is what I'm going through. Why am I going through this? I have learned building that personal relationship with God, to talk to him as if I was talking to someone else.
Yeah.
And I've learned to go to him first, because I know from there, first of all, I get my peace that I need, and then I get the direction. Because so many times I had it backwards. Like he's one, I go to him, I get the peace, I get the directions. It was so back before. It was 3, 2, 1. I went to someone else, they messed me up, feeling bad, someone got mad. So it was like, he's 1, 2, 3, him first, but before he was last. So that's what I do first, because I know he's always there.
Yeah.
He's always open,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So
I like that you said that, because sometimes you're so into your whatever's
Your
going
head.
on, you can't even. So for me, and I didn't realize that's what I was doing until you just said it. I have started doing. Have y'all done float therapy before?
No, but I have a coupon. My sister
Oh,
got me
please
one.
go. So and it's gonna be. You're gonna be like me. It's gonna take a while for your mind to shut off.
Yeah, because I'm going to think I'm drowning.
No, you're gonna be thinking about everything else. Just
Really?
if the cat got water, if the cats have water, bowls of water.
Cats
Yeah,
have
okay.
water.
You're gonna be thinking about all of
Sweet
that.
water.
So I do like the float therapy. I also go
Wait a minute,
to.
I'm
Well, what's
sorry, I'm
float
sorry.
therapy?
Yeah, because when you
You
said
gonna have
float
to-
therapy, she said water drown.
Okay.
So I'm gonna need to.
No.
Yeah.
So
I'm
it's
gonna need
like
to- yeah.
salt water, and you
Uh-huh.
go into these pods and you
Oh, you
float.
float,
So
yeah.
you feel like you're back in the womb or out in space.
And so you
it's
don't
like.
pour, what do I have on floaties? Because I've never done it.
Oh, you have a float little hat, but
So
you
what are y'all
float.
doing?
Your
Is it a
body
bathtub?
float. So
No,
you
girl.
go to
Go to a
float
play.
therapy.
What are y'all doing in your bathtub?
So you go to a float therapy place, and
Location.
you get in the water. It's very shallow. You get in there, but
Let's
your
go
body
together.
floats.
I was saying that needs to be a field trip.
It
ladies.
should be a field trip.
Okay.
It should be a field
And
trip.
it really helps to like, cause you're not like laying on a bed where your skin is still feeling so like you don't feel anything. So it helps to really reset you. Okay. Then from there, some people do like oxygen after they leave there and stuff like that. But I also do CrossFit because it pushes me. Right. So I also get pushed to my limit, and it helps me to clear my mind. Then I feel like I can go and pray, you know what I'm saying, and get clarity because my mind is all over the place. Like I'll literally start a prayer and then I'm thinking
Start thinking
about
about your recipe?
yes, like and I'm like, and I feel like I'm disrespecting
Disrespecting
God,
God.
then
Oh,
I
my
feel
bad, God.
shame, you know, and so now I'm like worse off than when I started.
Yeah.
So I have to, but that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
That's my process to
Yeah.
do that. Wow. So since we started talking about a little bit of religion, what role did that play, like, in your mental health? Like, if you were to tell older family members or anything like that that they need to go to therapy or that you're in therapy, especially being Black, you know, and they sometimes there's some stigma like, oh, that's for white people. We don't do that. We go to the altar, baby.
go to the Lord.
You know, we go to the Lord. But I mean, God put it
people
psychologists on the
this-
earth.
right,
Like I
right.
have a master's in emotional disturbances and learning disabilities, so I can help children through that, right? So there are people who can help us through that. So what role does religion play? And do you feel like you're turning your back on God because you're seeking another way, or do you know people who feel like that in our community?
I mean, I know people that feel like that. And when you tell them about what you're doing, that's their first reaction.
Okay.
I keep a pretty good balanced circle of friends who are all believers. So I happen to believe that sometimes when I'm not praying, they praying. Because my mama loved a joke too. You
Yeah.
better be glad you had a mama that
That
prayed.
So,
But I mean, I do think we get by on other people's prayers sometimes
Yeah.
because sometimes you so
Jesus.
In the
stuck,
midst of
you
what you're
don't
doing.
you don't know what to
Right.
even pray.
Yeah.
I think I like constant conversations with God, you know, instead of just taking the time like Joe does. Which I would like to improve on because I used to do it, but as life got muddy, I don't sketch, you know.
Schedule.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I believe what you're saying. Like, what would I tell them or what's different? With all due respect, I would tell them, I'm glad I got to know him for myself. Because your God wasn't working. Because your God was strict. Your God was going to get me. And if I did anything, I was going to hell. You know what I'm saying? So once I got to know God for myself, I'm thinking he's nothing like that. He is love. And I do believe, and I say this all the time, that as Christians, we need Christ and the couch.
Yeah.
Because I went to therapy and I loved it and I enjoyed it. So it doesn't take away. He's still my savior. I'm like, y'all comparing get at it. That's what's wrong with y'all.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know who he is.
Yeah.
So I would definitely tell him, like, you know, I'm glad I got to, with all due respect, I'm glad I got to know him for myself.
Yeah.
Because your God was punishing me.
Yeah.
He was
Making me
he was
feel
a punisher.
shame,
yeah.
Yeah, he was going to get me.
Yeah.
This God loves me. He directs
he's
me.
gonna
He
help me
guides
through
me.
it.
And he corrects me.
Yeah.
You know? So I would definitely say that, you know, you need Christ in the couch. And it's all good.
Yeah.
It don't take away from your Savior.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yep, I concur. I think that I think that if I was to speak to any of my elders and stuff, I think for the most part, I don't know what they say, but I'd be fine with my decision to go sit on the couch and I still love God. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, but I'd be like, I know, Auntie, but you know, I'm talking to this lady and I'm in a good place right now. I still love God. It hasn't taken away from me, and the same thing with my kids. My kids know, hey, want to go talk to somebody? That's fine. Let's make it happen.
Yes. And I feel like even with the therapy thing, I noticed my friendships, because at a point, you ain't gonna say it, but I know my friends were like, oh God. Like, I'm sure y'all looking at me like, I cannot hear this again.
I don't do that.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. So, but when I started going to therapy, I felt like being with my friends, they were with Lydia again. We were talking about fun stuff and being
That's
funny
a
and
good point.
and
That's a
they
good
were not
point.
listening to this BS over and over
Right.
again because I had someone
She
that
was
was
paid
paying.
to listen.
She had to pay to listen to what I had to say. You know, and then when they would bring stuff up, I'm like, oh girl, you know, I ain't worried about him or I ain't worried about that or whatever the case may be because I had that outlet. And then if I did share, it was in a funny way. Like, yeah, they're crazy. That guy's crazy. That dude is crazy. You know, all that kind of stuff, whatever.
That is such a good
So,
point.
and it just, I felt like it kind of helped my friendships too because I felt like I was bringing them down. Well, thank you so much for your vulnerability today and thank you for sharing. But I just want to make sure 1-800-273-8255. Again, 1-800-273-8255. That's the National Suicide Prevention Hotline.
Amen.
And if you want to volunteer or if you just are at your wit's end and no one's answering, please just pick up the phone and talk to someone because we have valleys and hills, valleys and
Girl, I'm trying to
mountains.
crack a joke again. I'm trying to say, what 800 number is this? Okay, let me say this.
And we're up and down. And so in those, times where you're down, just pick up the phone. Pick up the phone because everyone has value and we're all here for a purpose and we're all here for a reason and we have to fulfill that and we all have to be here to do that. So thank you. But next time, we're going to have another topic. So make sure you come back to listen to all of the chatter that matters. See you again.
Bye.